Good morning, everybody. For those of you who weren't here yesterday, who are not in this market, I'm Bob Buckhorn, B-U-C-K-H-O-R-N. I'm the mayor. I'm going to stand in for Chief Castor today. She is out on the street in anticipation of the first of what I'm assuming will be many marches by some of the groups that have come to offer an alternative opinion to what goes on inside the forum. Just a quick briefing on sort of the lay of the land. We had a staff briefing this morning with the state EOC. What it looks like now is that the storm is moving west. We will have some bands of heavy winds today, bands of heavy rain. In all likelihood, no tidal surge to speak of. Some of the low-lying areas that traditionally hold a lot of water will hold a lot of water. The challenge here is the ground is already saturated from months of heavy rain, and so you'll have some localized flooding in areas that typically will flood, but there will be no storm surge of any significance. Schools are closed in Hillsborough County, which means my 6-year-old and my 11-year-old have the babysitter tied up at this point. But city government is open and functioning as we normally do. We are in full preparation for whatever occurs, but we don't anticipate at this point that there'll be any significant issues to have to deal with other than the inconvenience of the convention being compressed into 3 days instead of 4. Met with the governor yesterday. We did a press availability. The governor has been fully engaged in this from day one, been very helpful, gave us whatever resources we needed at the state level, and has been a great friend and supporter of the city as we go through this. I opened up 3 locations for sandbags for our residents in some of our low-lying areas. So far, we have given away approximately 5,000 sandbags. They are in areas that you would typically expect if you live here to have issues. South Tampa, which is the area between here and MacDill Air Force Base, tends to flood during heavy rain occurrences, and so there will be some issues down there, and so 5,000 sandbags have been deployed. Traffic this morning was fine. No snarls to speak of. I think everyone paid attention to what we said throughout the month leading up to this, is to plan accordingly, to make sure they give themselves ample time to get to work, that there will be barricades, there'll be checkpoints, there'll be inconveniences, and you need to plan ahead in order to get to work to avoid the rush. Now, tomorrow may be a little bit different with the number of buses that are coming in. As all of you know, the RNC has leased 400 buses to move delegations from around the Bay Area. So I would imagine that downtown will have a very different dynamic tomorrow as people figure out exactly what to do and where to go. Other than that, things are doing well. The first significant protest will take place today, as best we can figure out, approximately noon. It's called the March on the RNC. There are probably 40 different groups ranging from, every and any cause. Will march from Perry Harvey Park down to the viewing area. There is a stage set up. I think there are over 40 speakers that have been signed up to speak at the event. We are trying to accommodate them as best we can. As many of you know, we have provided 4 times the amount of viewing area space than any previous convention. So we are encouraging people and being supportive of people who want to come and offer an alternative opinion. There have been minimal arrests so far. The law enforcement and the groups that are here to protest have a friendly relationship. I'm hopeful that will continue. And those that choose to, go down a different path, we are equally as prepared to deal with. But today will be the first indication of the size of the protests. Obviously, the weather probably will have a factor for those that are coming down to protest. When you're sleeping outside in the middle of a Category 1 hurricane, it probably is a little uncomfortable. But we'll see today, and we'll deal with it accordingly. The protest routes have all been laid out. Water will be provided. Misting stations over the next couple days will be provided. There are toilets along the parade route, and we wanted to make sure that whoever came here was treated fairly and respectfully, and so we have tried to provide all these things. It may not be necessary today, but I can tell you over the next 3 days when the weather changes and we get back to our normal types of weather, the need to hydrate will be awfully important. And I can't stress enough as mayor that folks who are coming here who are not used to functioning in this environment, you need to take precautions both from storms and from the heat. And we need folks to understand that they need to stay hydrated. Over the next couple days, when it warms up and the sun comes out, because of the moisture in the air, there will be a lot of humidity. It will be oppressive. And so folks who are out there on the street need to stay hydrated, and that includes our law enforcement personnel, which we will make sure get taken care of. So other than that, it's been a quiet night. The event at the Trop last night went well. I don't think there were any arrests in St. Petersburg at the event at the Tropicana. There were some protesters there, but for the most part, all the reports that I have gotten back indicate that the event went fine and everything ran smoothly. So the convention is ready to go. They obviously are compressing a lot of activities into 3 days versus 4, but I think they're excited about getting started and producing a nominee, and had a chance to meet last night with Chairman Priebus. And he's excited about Tampa and excited about how Tampa's performed. And I mean, it truly has been a great partnership, and they have had no complaints. And so I think they are ecstatic about the reception that they've gotten. Every delegate that I've talked to since I've been walking the streets really is appreciative of the hospitality. We made sure that from the moment they got off that plane, and hopefully it happened to all of you as well, the moment they get off that plane until the moment they leave TIA, that they were treated as graciously as we possibly can. And we have thousands of volunteers that are out there doing that for us and telling their individual story to the delegates and to the members of media, and just welcoming everybody to Tampa. So, for all intents and purposes, it's been a relatively smooth operation. We are hopeful that that will continue. We are prepared if it does not. And so at this point, I'll take whatever questions that you may have.
We heard about one arrest last night, a gentleman allegedly armed with a machete. Have you heard about any other arrests? You said they were minimal, but were there any others?
Not that I know of, and I don't know necessarily that gentleman was part of any organized protest effort, and may just have been thinking that this was cool to hang out down here with a machete. Obviously, the officers thought different, but yeah, he's been arrested, but other than that, it really hasn't been anything. Code enforcement is out there looking for graffiti, looking for potential stashes of weapons. We've got people sweeping the streets as we speak, looking for those things. Really not much has been found. We found some anarchist graffiti, which code enforcement painted over, but we're staying on top of it, and we intend to stay ahead of anybody who chooses to come here to cause issues. Yes, ma'am.
Just in terms of the weather, do you feel like you dodged a bullet here? And also, do you think the RNC made the right call calling things off? I mean, obviously, your city stood to gain a lot, and for all intents and purposes, everything's okay? Yeah,
it is okay, and I do think they made the right call. I mean, obviously, they are as concerned about the health and welfare of their delegates as I am. With hurricanes, and those of us who live here understand this, you cannot mess around with hurricanes. You cannot underestimate what may happen, because those hurricanes can turn on a dime. And so when you move into hurricane preparation and you start to execute your plans, you have to take everything under advisement. And the decision to postpone it for a day was largely driven by the fear that the delegates coming across the bridges in potentially 40-mile-an-hour winds sustained would put those high-profile buses at risk. And so then you get into a whole other logistical problem of moving the delegates around. And so I think they erred on the side of caution. I think it was the right thing to do. And I think they will find that it won't impact their convention at all. In terms of Tampa's perspective, I think we probably have gotten more mentions in the media because of the hurricane. I've become America's weatherman, whether I chose to or not. I never realized when I became the mayor that I'd be worried about millibars as opposed to millage rates. But it is what it is. We knew going into this that we were hosting this in the middle of the hurricane season. The chances were we hadn't taken a direct hit in 90 years. The odds were infinitesimal that we would take a direct hit. We are glad that we didn't. We are glad that the storm moved off. But we don't ever underestimate hurricanes, and we always train the people that live here to behave accordingly, to react according to the measures that we have laid out, to lay out their hurricane plan. I think the RNC absolutely did the right thing, and the chairman, he made the appropriate call. Yeah.
In your conversations with law enforcement, have they discussed whether they feel any of the protests or any of the potential threats have lessened as a result of the cancellations and the storm concerns?
No, we plan for the worst and hope for the best. You see, as you walk around town, that we have deployed overwhelming law enforcement presence. That is by design. We want folks to know that we're here to help, but we're also here to stop you if you choose to do anything to the contrary of what we expect. You know, it is what it is. There are going to be folks that will be coming here that will be interested in causing problems. They're not interested in participating in the democratic process. They're interested in destroying property and potentially injuring law enforcement personnel, and I am just not going to allow that to happen. And so we're going to deal with them, and we're going to deal with them respectfully, but efficiently. What I saw in Minneapolis-St. Paul, what I saw in Seattle at the WTO, is not going to happen here if we can avoid it.
So is there a belief that there are less protesters here today than there would have been if not for the storm? And also, again, I know you touched upon it, but how will the storm and the weather and the rain today affect the protests?
We will know. I'll let you know in a couple hours, Justin. I think the indication will be what you see in terms of the march on the RNC. You know, if the crowds are what we expected, we're prepared for it. If they're not, then obviously, you know, we're just as prepared for that. You know, what we worry about and what historically has happened is you've had groups of anarchists that will split off from the main protest route and run through the city or, you know, try and cause damage. We are very mobile. We are very fluid. We will deal with that as well. This is not a stationary force. This is a very fluid environment from law enforcement perspective, and we will go wherever they go. And so we are prepared for that. You've seen them all in their khaki uniforms. You've seen the bike squads. You've seen, you know, a very heavy presence on the street, and that is by design.
You touched upon yesterday the possibility of National Guard folks being moved to Field Isaac. Is that less likely a possibility at this point?
I think so. I think so. You know, the National Guard has been deployed at a lot of our public buildings, just standing guard. They've been a great help to us, because that allows us to put, you know, our uniformed personnel out on the streets. I don't anticipate, barring any unforeseen circumstances, that there would be a need to actually physically deploy the National Guard out in the streets. But again, I'm glad they're here. More is better. More uniforms, whether they're camouflage or khaki, is fine with me. Yes, sir. Anything else? All right. Let's have a great day. Thanks, everybody.